The world of organized crime is fighting a new enemy. It's the enemy within. You might call them the me generation of mobsters. Men who put themselves before the family. Men like Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano, one-time right-hand man to reputed mob boss John Gotti. Federal prosecutors say Gravano is their secret weapon against Gotti, who's standing trial now in New York City. There have been many others like Gravano, men willing to take a deadly risk by telling family secrets. Chief Correspondent Chris Wallace found out what makes the risk worth it to break the sacred code of silence known as Omerta.
This drop of blood symbolizes your birth into our family. We are one until death.
Omerta, the code of silence. This thing of ours. That's it. This means everything.
If you were to ever disavow the oath, then your blood would be shed like the blood that's being shed now.
In effect, if you break the oath that you take, the oath of silence, the oath of loyalty,
you die.
Whether in the movies or real life, the mob takes its oath of silence seriously. When word got out a few years ago that this New York gangster had testified against his boss, John Gotti, the family settled the case out of court.
Bang! The gun went off. 38, pretty loud. And Pat's head went like this.
For a quarter century, Nicky the Crow Caramandi helped enforce Omerta. Now wearing a disguise, he told us about his years as a hitman for the mob.
Right. You're on call 24 hours a day. I mean, you never know when they're going to call you to bounce somebody.
I want to show you, because you make it all still sound like a gangster movie. This is the handiwork of these murders. This is what you did.
Yes, I was sitting right next to him when he got it. I tried 17 different times to get him.
I mean, that isn't romantic. That isn't movies. That's
true. That's the way it is. I mean...
that's a bullet in the back of the head.
2.
Caramandi was the right-hand man to one of this country's most violent mob bosses, Nicky Scarfo of Philadelphia. Scarfo's empire extended to the casinos of Atlantic City. Authorities say he raked in $40 million a year. For Caramandi, life in the mob was sweet.
If it's raining, 50 umbrellas come out. If you sneeze, 50 handkerchiefs come out. People can't do enough for you. I mean, you have friends that'll kill for you.
You loved it.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure I loved it. I miss it. Right now, I miss it. I miss it a lot.
He misses the mob because 5 years ago, he got word Scarfo doubted his loyalty and had ordered his murder. Caramandi went to the FBI and has since testified in 11 trials that brought 52 convictions, including life in prison for Nicky Scarfo.
They move you around a lot.
We met up with Caramandi in a secret location, far from his new home set up by the Witness Protection Program. And he still expressed pain about going to the feds.
To survive, to stay alive. That's the reason I did it.
How did you feel getting up in court and betraying your family?
Terrible. It was very, very, very hard. I mean, I had to face them. They used to sit there and look at me, stare at me.
The enterprise was known as the Scarfo family of La Casa Nostra, this thing of ours.
The humiliation is I can't explain it. It's just an awful feeling. And
you turned stool pigeon.
Right. I became a rat. Exactly.
Caramandi is part of a pack of rats that has turned on the mob. In the past decade, 16 official members and dozens of soldiers in mafia crime families have cooperated with the government. And perhaps the most damaging, Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano, John Gotti's number 2 man who may finally bring him down. This is an actual flyer circulating in New York City, targeting Gravano.
Sammy the Bull. He decided, who right now does the government want? Of course, the government would rather have John Gotti than Sammy the Bull. So he decides he's going to make a deal to go against his partner and boss.
Joe Pistone is a former undercover FBI agent and mobster. For 6 years, he infiltrated New York's underworld and helped send more than 100 mobsters to jail. But he says in the old days, there was honor among thieves.
They believed in the values and the traditions. They would never give up anyone in the family. They're dinosaurs now.
The kind of guy who will sit there and do the hard time.
Do the time.
And shut up.
They're a dying breed.
Chicago, 1929, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. A scene captured in countless gangster movies. Scarface Al Capone engineers a vicious rub-out of a rival gang. During Prohibition, Jewish, Irish, and Italian gangsters fought for control of the lucrative bootlegging trade in the tough towns of the East and Midwest. When the smoke cleared in the early 30s, the Italians were in charge and could draw on a steady stream of wannabe mobsters from Little Italies across the country.
They joined it because it was an honored society. They were men of respect. They had reached the uppermost in their profession of criminals.
Ron Goldstock heads New York's Organized Crime Task Force. He says that over the years, the federal government tried repeatedly to crack down on the mob, but could never break the code of silence.
The government today brought out of hiding the first highly placed Cosa Nostra member ever to break its blood oath and tell all about the vast criminal syndicate.
The first crack in mob loyalty came in 1963. In a series of Senate hearings, Joseph Valachi, a soldier in the New York Mafia, violated Omerta.
This is the way I burn if I expose this organization.
But Valachi stood alone when he betrayed the family. Over the next 20 years, only one other mob member cooperated with the government. What finally broke the code of silence? First, effective use of the RICO statute, the federal racketeering law. Prosecutors can now go after an entire mafia family for running a criminal enterprise and can put members away for decades. But tougher law enforcement wouldn't mean a thing if there hadn't also been a change within the mob. A new generation of young recruits, less interested in the old traditions, more interested in the fast buck. They're known as the yuppie mobsters.
We were making a tremendous amount of money at one time, and I had boats, and I had planes, and I had several homes, and...
You had planes?
Yes. We had a Learjet at our disposal.
Michael Franzese planned to be a doctor, but decided he could make more money in the mob. At age 24, he was formally initiated into New York's Colombo crime family. Over the next 10 years, he set up a sophisticated scheme to steal gasoline excise taxes.
Over the years, how much money did you make for the mob?
It's hard to estimate. I mean, several $1 million.
There have been estimates of 80 million. It's a lot of money.
Yes, it is.
What'd you do with all of it?
Spent most of it.
Quiet, please, the background. Roll sound.
With money to burn, Franzese dabbled in the film business, producing 4 minor movies and even appearing in one. He was dubbed the Mafia Prince.
And what is the difference of the yuppie generation of mobsters and the older guys?
I knew a lot of old-timers that were content to make their money, put it under the mattress, but the younger guys, such as myself, I mean, wanted to enjoy our life a little bit.
When Franzese talks about old-timers, he means people like his father, Sonny, the number 2 man in the Colombo family back in the 60s, before he was sent to prison for bank robbery.
He'll have served 21 years in the last 25 years.
21 years?
21 years.
Has he ever once bargained with the feds?
Not one time.
Has he ever talked with any prosecutors?
He wouldn't even think of it.
But rotting in jail was the last thing the Mafia Prince would do. Michael Franzese was sent to prison in 1986. He struck a deal with the government, and 3 years later went free.
You willing to talk to prosecutors again?
The door's open. If they want to talk, I'll talk.
Now back in prison after more shady business schemes, he's willing to deal with the government again if it will reunite him with his family. No, not his crime family, his wife and kids.
You don't have any thoughts at all about breaking this blood oath that you took?
No. I don't believe I betrayed my father. I believe that my loyalty to my family has outweighed that. And I think that my father's loyalty to that oath is antiquated, and I think he's misguided.
What does your father think of what you've done?
Like I said, he would never agree with what I've done.
Attorney Robert Simmels represents members of the underworld. He says yuppie mobsters in prison make a kind of cost-benefit analysis.
Money is the key to the way they have operated their whole lives, and power and prestige. And if they can't have it being a member of the mob, then they'd rather get it by being an author and being free from a long-term jail sentence.
In fact, ex-mobsters are now falling all over themselves to cash in on their lives of crime. In just the past few months, Caramandi's Kiss and Tell, Blood and Honor, and Franzese's Quitting the Mob have hit bookstores. And look at Henry Hill, first a best-selling book, then a hit movie. This small-time former Brooklyn mobster has set up what amounts to a cottage industry.
You've made a lot of money as an ex-mobster, haven't you?
I've made some money, yes, sir.
There was the book Wise Guy. What was your cut from that?
A little over $250,000.
There was the movie Goodfellas.
$500,000.
And now you're talking about a TV series?
Correct.
What kind of money might you make from that?
It depends upon how many episodes it goes.
You make a fortune as a wise guy. Then, when it becomes inconvenient, you flip. And now you're making money telling the story.
I mean, it's a good country, America.
Now that mobsters who turn can not only survive, but thrive, law enforcement officials say the bosses are increasingly vulnerable. That after 60 years, the mob is on its last legs.
The situation in New York is to the point now where no one wants to actually take over, be the boss of a family, because they know they're going to get targeted.
What is the cumulative effect of all of this disloyalty?
The infrastructure of the mob is crumbling. In 10 years, the mob is going to be unrecognizable.
The feds say they have got the mob on the ropes.
It's never going to die. It's something that just won't die. They're going to nibble the FBI here and there. They're going to do a little damage to individuals, but not to the structure of the mob.
Self-confessed rats like Caramandi think they'll keep living in a kind of limbo, protected by the resources of the federal government, but pursued by an old way of life that still has a hold on them.
As you look back on it, do you feel you did the right thing going to the government?
It's just an awful feeling. Now I got to live in fear all my life, worried about getting whacked, getting shot in the head somewhere. And sometimes I think I was better off if I would have got killed than to live like this.
20 mob bosses and hundreds of mafia foot soldiers have been convicted over the past 10 years, thanks in part to family members who sold out to the government.